Welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained. Actually, let me just get better set up here. And as you can tell by the ticker, this is going to be a box opening or a package opening of James Bond 007. I actually bought this a couple weeks ago. It took some time for both parts of it to, arrive. So I wanted to wait until I had both parts before I actually opened it up. And just as always, have to deal with the excessive packaging when we start this here. But you know what? Too much packaging is always better than not enough, especially when you're paying, for something to arrive in a pretty decent condition. Now, overall, this was like one of my cheaper acquisitions. It cost about $37 for both parts of this, role-playing game, and I really wanted to get this one because, like I said, most of the series of videos that I've done of box openings have been RPGs that I played back, during my teen years in the early 1980s, and my particular gaming group, which was, basically four of us. We had been friends from, basically second grade on through, until, graduation of high school. And during that time, we played quite a variety of RPGs, and we played the ones that we did play. We played really extensively, like almost every day. My friends lived right across the street from me, right up the block from me, and only one of our group members actually lived somewhat far, but busing and such, we always got together and managed to still play very, very often. So James Bond 007 was a role-playing game put out by Victory Games, and as you can tell, so here's the box. I'll open it up, and so here you can see a little bit of a crease. It's a split all the way through, but again, not nothing major. Some slight denting in the box top itself. Like I said, I paid maybe a little over $20 for this, so it wasn't a certainly a good buy. All right, so games and parts price list. So it has the original, original games and parts listed here. Nothing filled out. Everything, complete. Yeah, everything here. So here we have character sheets. So some character sheets and stapled together, multiplication table on it, so you can see basically the various attributes and place where you list all of the skills that the character has, their abilities. Connoisseur was a starting ability, first aid, photography, a list for scars, experience points, the weapons that they were carrying. I'm looking for the actual, so they have fan points, hero points. James Bond was the first game that I recall that used a hero points type system where, if you expended a hero point, you could get to re-roll, or you could, if you were already successful with your roll, you can add a hero point in order to make it, greatly successful, or you could perform very, James Bondish, astounding type feats with the expenditure of one or two hero points. Hero points were basically, the way it would be reflected role playing was just something that was just like, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe that he was able to do this kind of a thing. So, you know, you typically wouldn't spend more than two hero points to do anything because that was, really quite a astonishing thing to require that many hero points. So nobody does it better than Bond. All right, so they have, a flyer here, and then this here is still outline of the basics components. So it's kind of like the glossary. Was kind of odd that you'd have a glossary outside of the or table of contents outside of the box itself. So outside the book. So here's the book, and the book has a little bit of a nick on the end there. Otherwise, binding wise, it's, well, let me get it all the way up. It looks pretty tight, and I like doing the flip through and seeing. Yeah, I mean, some of these pictures. I mean, it really brings me back. That's a classic picture from the James Bond game. Certainly all of these things, I do recall, how to interact with characters, again, the fame and hero points, the weapons. So here's the weapons section, of the book. And so you start going through the different weapons and, vehicles, miscellaneous equipment, some story elements, and how to create non-player characters, how to create adventures, all kinds of tables and everything. So you can kind of randomize and create some random adventures. I generally don't create random adventures, but it's nice to have some charts and everything that you can roll on, just to kind of create, a few unintended consequences and things like that. There's a section in the book that details MI6 and Tarot, which is a criminal organization, allies and enemies of Bond, and it goes through all of the movies up through, obviously the 1980s. So it's not going to have any of the new Bond, movies. So in this book here, let's just see a copyright on it. So this was copyrighted in, let's see. That's odd. It doesn't actually, it's got to be here somewhere. I want to say it's 83, but it actually doesn't say. Yep, it says 83. So it was a very good guess on my part. So this is the basic game, and then there were the box sets of each of the movie portfolios, for lack of a better term. So you had things like The Spy Who Loved Me or Octopussy or, you know, I just drew a blank, Goldfinger and such. So any of the movies that existed prior to the 1980s up through, at the very least up through, I would say the late 80s, those were produced for this, for this game system. And the other supplement that I was waiting on, and I'm going to repackage this up the way it came. So I'm very happy with the condition that all of this is in. This is, and once again, for purchase, purchase price for this was, about $20 and change for the box set. That certainly does. It says basic game book plus character records, two 10-sided dice and two 6-sided dice. So the one thing it does not have is the dice, but that's not a major problem. I have plenty of dice, and it's not like I'm purchasing this to resell. Now, the other supplement that I really believe is required for this, is the Q manual, and the Q manual, and as you can tell, I mean, binding wise, it's pretty decent. I mean, it's not really bad. There's a slight dent and right over here, a slight dent in it, and it's a slight tear, but the book itself is intact, and so it starts off with a weapons section, in the book, and so starts dealing with some more equipment, and then it goes into grenades, some exotic weapons and accessories, vehicles, and so just a larger selection of different vehicles, aircraft, boats, and there's something here. Then drugs, poisons, chemical agents. And then I believe it goes into so the Q branch, history and personnel. And so these are the agents of Q branch, and then the appendix for a tribute summary of all of the included weapons and such. So between the two, between these two, and like I said, overall I paid about $37, for the complete set. So between the two, you have a full game, and you can you can start crafting adventures for James Bond 007, and obviously you don't have to play as James Bond. You will create your own 008 agent, and I think I used to either be 00. It was one of the 00s that didn't exist. Like I'm pretty sure 8 existed. It might have been like 009 or. And I know 004 existed as a character, so it was certainly one of the numbers that wasn't in the books, and didn't have the didn't actually have a character assigned to it. I quite frankly I can't remember. It's going back to 35 years ago, so it's a bit long to try to remember where it was. So anyway, So once again, another good acquisition, and that's going to be it for a while for my 1980s, recapturing the 80s of RPGs. I was going to try to get a hold of the Conan RPG, but it's just priced out too high for me to pick it up. And I was thinking the same thing with Twilight 2000, but I just recently printed out the PDF, and I have enough of the PDFs in order to actually get into that game and start playing that game again. So and Star Frontiers, I have that in PDF as well. And Star Frontiers is another one that's just kind of priced out of range of actually getting. There's two box sets for Star Frontiers, and and it's just not feasible to financially feasible to do that when I have free PDFs already printed out and sitting in binders. So anyway, so once again, thanks for joining the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you have any comments that you'd like to leave, you're welcome to leave any comments. I respond to comments when they're put on there, so I have no problem with responding to any comments. And on Facebook, I'm associated with. I run On Screen Gaming, OSG, which is a Facebook community dedicated to all role-playing games, regardless of format and regardless of genre. And so I basically play anything that's that you can play on a screen. So and then obviously Unscripted and Unchained is my YouTube channel. My name is DM Bloodworth. Look forward to playing with any of you if you're interested. A lot of new games coming around. I know Conan Exiles just launched, and so I've been dabbling around with that, with the new launch, and probably looking to do something by the weekend as far as starting up a server there. So once again, have a good night.